Hello, and welcome back to Toxic, the podcast where we take pop culture moments that are trending to talk about their greater impact on the morals of society. We are two cultural critics. I am Leia, and I'm joined by,
Galina.
and today we'll be talking about who again, please?
Puff Daddy. Oh wait, no. P Diddy or wait, Diddy? What's his latest name? I don't know. I'm out the
The
loop
last one
now.
I heard was Brother Love. So
What?
yes. Yeah,
I
yeah, a couple years ago. Yeah, he changed it to Brother Love.
I missed that. They don't call
Yeah.
him that in the media though, do they? Do they call
When
him
they're
Brother
being
Love?
when they want to be sarcastic.
Ah, I see. Okay, so we're
Like,
talking
yeah,
about
Sean Combs,
Sean Combs, still CEO of
Bad Boy
Bad Boy Records.
Records Entertainment. Yep, I believe so. For
All right,
now,
and yeah, probably not for long.
maybe not for long. So to get into why we're talking about and what happened is, as of yesterday, I believe he has been named in a lawsuit by his former girlfriend Cassie, who was also one of the artists under his label. And they were together for a long time. Like I thought it was about 7 years, but I think some reports have said almost 10.
Oh, really? I didn't realize that. I thought they were
Yeah,
only together for 2 or 3 years. Okay.
yeah, but he has multiple girlfriends at a time. Like there'll be, or he'll have a girlfriend, but then someone else winds up pregnant. That just happened. Someone just had a baby from a year ago. And even though he's involved with one of the city girls, so yeah, I don't know the exact length of their relationship, but I think that's kind of to be expected, right? Like when you start dating one of your artists, you're probably trying to not necessarily keep it under wraps, but it's not, um, yeah, who knows how long the relationship was going for by the time the public found out. In any case, they've been broken up for a while. She is happily repartnered, I think married to the father of her child, maybe children. And yes, seems really happy, but a lot of things have been coming out about Diddy and his treatment of some of the artists that he was supposed to manage under his label and some bad contracts and things. So that was already of topic in the past year. I think there's a documentary coming out, Surviving Diddy, and that's
Oh.
mostly about that. Yeah, about that show Making the Band, how they yeah, how abusive it really was for them, and some really ridiculous things happened. So
Well, I
it
thought
was
it was
very
abusive
much
when I watched it, actually. So
agreed. Yeah, like the little bit I seen, I couldn't watch it. I don't actually like people. I can't watch that kind of thing. So I remember, yeah,
you don't
being
like
kind of grossed out.
people?
No, I don't like when people are mean to each other.
Oh,
I don't
right.
like
Got it.
nudity.
I
Yeah,
wanted
like
you
I
to
don't.
clear that up because I know that unlike me,
Oh,
you are not a people hater.
well, I mean, people are pretty fascinating. So yeah, so that's why he. So I want to just point that out that he has been in the news for this whole year, and then this was like another. So this is enormous, right? So that's why we're talking about this now. She's alleged not just domestic violence, which would have been enough, but kind of like a false imprisonment and forced sexual acts, and eventually, and including rape. It's pretty horrific.
Mm, mm, mm.
Yeah. So, ooh,
Okay.
obviously toxic. That's certainly not
Yeah.
up for debate.
No, we're
But
not debating that.
we're
We're
not
just want to
debating that at
parsing
all.
out all the different elements of toxicity in this story.
Yeah, and where like society, wink, wink, meaning are all of us, where we're kind of complicit in how we kind of help make monsters like this.
Hmm.
What we can do to maybe not not contribute to this, because yes, this is an extreme case. This is a person who a lot of people know, uh, but these things are not rare at all, right? Like domestic violence, and people kind of being held against their will, and terrible sexual depravity being exacted on what was supposed to be a romantic partner. Like that's not something that's foreign to us regular folk. So where should we start? What do you want to say?
Okay,
What
let's
what do you
start
make
with
of this?
why now, because I do think that's important.
Okay. Do you want to talk about that?
Well, so from what I could gather is that New York maybe a couple years ago, passed a law to help adult survivors of sexual assault, abuse, or whatever, um, come forward and file civil suits, even though the statute of limitations had passed for criminal and I guess also maybe civil suits. But weirdly enough, and I didn't do any research on this, so I would have to go look in further because I don't want to criticize something that I'm not completely informed about. But it was a window, meaning they passed this law, they
Yes.
recognized, and I think really it was more so for all of like the church abuse that's been going on. So like as a society, we're
Uh,
recognizing now that like, okay, things can happen to people when they're kids or teenagers or whatever,
right.
and like you may not be ready to talk about it or deal with it or don't have the power or the resource or whatever until, 20, 30, 40 years later. And
Yeah.
so all these predators have been getting away with these
Yeah.
horrible crimes because the statute of limitations had passed, which I don't remember what they were, but I know for some crimes, it might only be like 7 years or something. Like,
Yeah.
um,
And it takes people time to process things that they've been through and to be able to place it, sometimes even to name it, to know a thing happened that went wrong. So yeah,
right.
that was my understanding of exactly what you said. So thank you for that.
So that because I do think there has been some little inklings of criticism, like, well, why do people wait so long or what? And it's just like not that even want to talk to them about that or acknowledge their stupid questions, um, as
Yeah.
regards to
But there
that.
is an
But
answer.
yeah, but
Yeah.
there is an answer. And also, like I said about not criticizing, this obviously is a great law that they passed. But what I'm concerned about is I don't understand why it's like this like 2 year window or something. So that's the
Very
point.
weird.
Apparently, I guess November 21st or something like that is when this window passed. And so anybody who has been abused, but the statute of limitations has passed, they only had this 2 years to like, file these suits or come forward or decide. So it's basically like, or forever hold your peace. So that is why
Yeah.
she is filing now. And that's why this is coming out now, even though they've been out of relationship. And any of these alleged incidents has happened years ago. And I also want to say, like, this is not a court of law. This is a court of public opinion. This is a court of Shalina, Nicole, and Leah. And so we can say that he's guilty or toxic or this or that. Because we don't have to consider him innocent until proven guilty.
But we are not calling him guilty. I think we probably need
No,
to
we're
say
not calling him
also.
guilty.
Yeah, we don't. We certainly weren't there. We don't know. It certainly seems something happened, and certainly a lot of the other rumors have been proven to be true. Right, that artists are under terrible contract, that they were tricked into things, that they were held to, yeah, they were sort of held hostage, and the resources they were promised not put into their projects, or they just never launched at all, and a litany of sort of musical crimes. It's funny because I guess we all have heard that the music business is so tough, and show business in general, right? So tough.
And
But
corrupt.
he's literally one of the monsters that make it that way. Do you know what I mean? Like it's weird because we all say it as if it's just this abstract thing that just exists in the ether and was born of nothing, right? It just exists in the void. But like, no, there's like real humans that you can attach to it. And yeah, sure, it's an industry, but there are people running it and who are directly benefiting from it. And he
Mm-hmm.
seems to be one of these people. He seems to be kind of a kingpin. So I mean, and I mentioned that because I don't know where you want to go next, but I do want to at some point, maybe now if it's appropriate, point out that morality is linked. People like the
Mm.
way you treat people is the way you feel about them, right? Like morality is absolutely linked. Like if you will cheat someone, then you'll probably steal from them, right? Like and it escalates, and the more you
Mm-hmm.
get away with them, the more you get away with. And you had a really brilliant thought about that, and I don't know if now's the time to share it, but definitely don't. We're not going to leave this without you mentioning that. But yeah, like
Well,
it we there's a trail of bad deeds that when a person is revealed to be a monster, there seem to be quite a few places where I'm not saying you could have necessarily stopped them, but sometimes yes, but definitely more objection could have been made, or the objections could have been taken more seriously. And I'll let you interject, but I do want to say that I would like to at some point call out some of the whistleblowers who actually have been saying a lot of this stuff for years. So go ahead. What were you going to say?
okay. Well, I was gonna say, yeah, like he has been emboldened. So this is the thing. Growing up, I am not saying I was a fan of him because I don't think I'm a fan of celebrities, period. But I did like him. I enjoyed him. I liked his story. I like that he, had a dream and a vision and made it happen, was willing to take risk and create something. And I love that. I love entrepreneurs and visionaries and people who are masterminds. Um, so I mean, I liked him. I thought he was a pretty good guy. I did.
Mm,
Um,
mm-hmm.
but apparently he is not. And I
No,
guess
what?
and so I guess the other thing I would say about him being emboldened is like I do think that we all have higher and lesser natures, and that both and either can be cultivated. And so one of the problems is when society isn't holding you accountable. And by society, I don't mean just like the larger society, but the people around you, your friend group, your business group, the people you work with, and you get away with bad behaviors or little things that you kind of maybe don't feel the best about or you knew were wrong, and no one ever checks you or tries to corral you or intervenes
Yeah,
or pushes back, or someone that you like or know and respect looks you straight in the eye and is just like, dude, what the heck? That's how people become villains and monsters. Not that that wasn't always in him, but we all have a lot of stuff that are in us. You don't just jump
right.
up one day and you're, maybe some people do. I think a small part of the population are a rapist and a beater and a this and a that and passing people around and having weird sexual acts and all this stuff. Like, no, he got away with little bad things and he kept getting away with it and no one ever called him to account. And now, over 20 or 30 years, and not that I'm
Yeah.
blaming the people around him, that's how monsters become more monstrous. No one stops them.
Right. But it's not just no one. I want like to go I want to really hone in on something that you said when we were just prepping for this. It's not just no one because there were people and I want to say that there is a woman named Jaguar Wright who's like very involved in hip hop. I don't actually remember what her job is, but she knows everybody and has been talking about these stories and specifically like women and sexual abuses that they have had to endure in hip hop and on video shoots and stuff. And she's been saying stuff about him for a really long time. And there are other people. Oh, Audrey O'Day from that group Danity
Hmm.
Kane, right? She's been super vocal about how, wage theft essentially, and how
Hmm.
he's tricked, even Mace out of his catalog, like sold it
Oh
to a
gosh.
European, like just some really, really shady, underhanded, sad uh dick move, like really just kind of mean girl stuff, which I don't
Yeah.
really get that. It seems so what I'm trying to say is it's not just greedy but also kind of vicious.
Hmm.
um
Petty,
so there are people like that,
small-minded.
but very small petty little things, especially for someone so big, right? Someone with their own like alcohol portfolio. Like what are you, that's incredible. Why are you even stealing from these kids and who grow up and don't have resources now? Like I think pretty famously Biggie Smalls, allegedly one of his best friends, his mother said either at his funeral, at her son's funeral or shortly after, that basically that there was nothing left. Like he had nothing. That the friends were sad. That they were mourning their loss of money more than the loss of the human. To
Hmm.
paraphrase what she said. And just it's been going on for a while. But the point I want to say that you said earlier that I thought was so great. It's not just people. It's people in power. It's someone of like at least equal, some equal
Yeah.
status or power to fight back. Because like yeah, there are people who have been not quietly, very loudly trying to say something all this entire time, and they've been shouted down. But it needs to be, I mean, I'm going to say men because that's usually right, like who perpetrates sexual crimes for the most part. It's got to be men in power, and as you
Yeah.
said, I want to give credit to you, men, basically checking other men, like holding each other accountable. Like it's that has to happen. It's not okay, now that these allegations have come out. We saw, I think it's Young Jock, was like, yeah, was there when Diddy decided that Cassie should shave her head, right? And was witness to some of the way that she was treated. And there's going to be a bunch of people that come out of the woodwork to say, oh yeah, I saw this and I saw that. Well, okay, well, why didn't you say something when it was happening? Like it's
Right.
not enough to just sort of like quietly witness someone being abused. And I'm not saying they need to be a vigilante, because if someone isn't going to take steps to free themselves from the abuse, it really is, kind of futile. If they're not ready to go. But I don't know, to speak up, to be more vocal about the things you see and not to just accept them as status quo, or not want to upset, wherever you are in the hierarchy. It's just a little gross. Like, if you kept
Yeah.
your mouth shut, then keep your mouth shut now, unless it's going to bolster their story and help them, then okay. But if it's just you and sort of clout chasing and wanting to, say I was
Be a
there,
part of the
it's
narrative.
yeah, it's getting a bit ghoulish. It's a bad look.
Yeah, you're so right. I'm glad you pointed that out. So I saw some commenter on an Instagram post, and I can't remember. Maybe it wasn't a comment, or maybe it was another post where it was like, "Oh yeah, like it was kind of common knowledge that he beat her up so bad one time that she had to
Terrible.
go to Hawaii for 3 weeks because her face was just like so terrible that she needed to be hidden." And so it's like, okay, so someone like Young Jock, especially at that time, and I'm not saying that he knew that or he is probably not necessarily in a position of power. Like I think he
For
was one
sure.
of the artists or whatever, maybe just coming up. But what about the other studio executives? What about the COO? What about the VP? What about, you know what I
Yes.
mean? So maybe a man,
Anyone, yes.
yeah,
To hold the moral standard, someone
uh-huh,
who is higher than, who does see what's happening, and finds it disgusting, just personally, like, just personally find, like, I don't care what this, the victim will or will not put up with, like, that can't happen. You're absolutely right. Like, someone to stand up and be like, this is completely unacceptable and it's disgusting.
yes, there needs to
Yeah.
be that. But it seems that in these powerful circles, powerful people, they keep each other's secrets, they keep each other, they don't check each other. And really they're the only ones who can
Who
check each
can do
other.
it? Yeah.
It has to be the writers at Variety. It has to be the investors and Bad Boy and all these, because I can't remember all this stuff. I used to be into some of this stuff, but he may own his company outright now, but a lot of times these people who these so-called had their own label or whatever, they were still underneath another label. So at least at the beginning for a while until they were able to
Yeah,
completely own it. So there's other people who can check these people. There's other powerful people who can check them. They choose not to.
absolutely.
And that's what's toxic because really women and the abuse of us don't matter to them. Period. Or else
Yeah.
it doesn't matter enough to risk their relationship with him. Risk their, I don't know. There needs to be a big shift in all of us. But there
Yeah.
definitely needs to be a much more of a rise of the divine masculine and the mentality of like, this is not who we are.
Yes.
This is not what we do. This is not acceptable. This is not cute. This is not funny. This is disgusting. This is vile. I don't want to be associated with. I don't want to do business
Exactly.
with. I don't want to be around a man that thinks that this is okay. That's the type of energy we need in powerful elite circles.
And do you know someone, well, not maybe the powerful part, but the or the elite part, but do you know who actually embodied and followed through on all of those things in this exact situation?
No, who?
Cassie's husband.
Oh, I love that. That's probably why
It
she's
is
so.
because she signed. It's believed that she signed an NDA, and that's why she hasn't, sort of publicly spoken about these things. And through the years, this is how I'm piecing this together. Through the years, he has encouraged her to talk about what happened, in this relationship before his. And actually, I think there's some. It's common knowledge-ish that if he didn't necessarily rescue her, like, he was a big part of why she could leave, right? Like, a person as powerful as Brother Love, P Diddy, Sean Combs, whatever, it is hard to leave them if they're not ready for you to go, right? Like, especially if you're unprotected, there's no one sort of to stand up to you, to stand up for you. And so, how, whatever the timeline is, she basically fell into his arms, right? And he's been very
Mm,
healing for her and encouraging her to talk about things. And it's funny because through the years, every once in a while he'll just start taking shots at Sean Combs. Like, Sean will post about something and then he'll be under the comments just saying something just sort of foul and calling him out. And it's been so interesting to watch. What it seems like has happened is pillow talk, really. And
mm,
and the divine masculine being awakened in him, hearing this woman that he loves and how much pain she's in. I was, as we were preparing for this, I was telling you that I saw some footage of her after either he or she, I can't remember, had run a marathon that was benefiting domestic violence survivors, or a shelter. Um, and she just, like, she couldn't move. She just collapsed in his arms and was just sobbing. She was just sobbing, and you can just see, like, damn, she's really been, someone put this girl through it. We know exactly who, because she was in a relationship with him since she was 19 years old. So, you know, um, definitely groomed and seen horrors allegedly that unfortunately are going to, fortunately and unfortunately are going to come out now. But I would say that is the divine masculine, like what a beautiful example. Like he just was disgusted. And I think that's probably what pushed her to do this, as like you mentioned, that little clause expires next week. And what's kind of fortunate and kind of unfortunate timing wise is, she's not a huge name, but she's a big name, right? That's a big person who spent a lot of time with him to have allegations like this. So hopefully, anyone else who's in the New York State that has also suffered under this is emboldened to also take action, which they better move really, really, really fast. But that is something I do want to say, is that, for the part we said in the beginning about like where we all are complicit in things. And I think it's that, like, when things happen to us, I think we have to say things. When someone deliberately does something to harm us or that's illegal, but not doesn't seem like a big deal, I think if you can say something, it's probably for the best. Because as I said before, like morality is a trail. It's like, it's the value system that people hold. And what, the thing that they've done to you is, as small as it may seem to you, or you feel insignificant, it's really a trail of things, of behaviors that are exactly or worse, like whatever you've suffered. And it's just better to just say something, because it really helps other people out, right? Like, so even, people who are past the statute come next week, there are people in other states who I'm sure who have suffered abuse from him, who are going to now be emboldened to be able to take whatever action they can take. So anyway, that's what I want to say.
That's yes. Well, this whole thing is really sad because, when you were, I don't know, something you mentioned, it made me think like, oh yeah, like I think in some ways he also kind of took her voice away. Meaning like we forget that she was an artist, and I don't really think she performs or sings, or she probably just is not really interested in being in that industry in the same way anymore, because the whole thing has been a traumatizing experience.
Yeah, literally her entire career, right? Like, because if someone nabs you at 19, that's kind of, and those are your formative years, right, where you're becoming an adult. So yeah, really, really, really unfortunate. We didn't even touch on, I mean, this is the topic, so it makes sense that we didn't touch on these things. But I wanted to point out that some of the other crimes that, people are rumored, like, not, has he ever been charged with, or even we've gotten indication of any sort of investigation? Absolutely not. These are all things that are alleged. But the crime sort of range. I recently, it was come out that he may have been involved in the death of Tupac. Some people have always sort of suspected him. Yes, that's speculated that he called for the hit. I don't know how true that is. No, it's really like and that's been a long time that people have said stuff like this. Actually, they say the same thing about Biggie.
What?
Yes, they say that and apparently he really did screw him over contract wise, and so he actually had the most to make with him. There's some bad things. They also, unfortunately, they do think that maybe he had something. People, the streets, right? I'm not saying anyone official, but people speculate that he had something to do with his, I don't know what you call her, former partner, mother of
Kim.
Yes.
No. Yeah. No, this is too much.
I'm not saying. Well,
I'm not saying it to you like
okay,
this,
good.
but
I want to be really clear.
I can't. So that's enough. Yeah. I'm done here. What anyway, in the world? Okay, so now I'm mad at myself because I pride myself on having a spidey sense. There's so many celebrities who I just like don't like or weren't into, or just, and then I say little things about them, and 5 years or 10 years, and people are like, "Oh, you called it." Yep, I sure did. I can see right through these people. I'm disgusted. Wow.
By the way, does that mean that he did those things? It doesn't. But I think it's interesting that that's something people think he's capable, right? Like,
right. The fact that they think he's capable of it says a lot about
it does
who he is.
I just want
when he's not in front of the camera.
Exactly. So just want to mention that, because who knows what's to come in the next few months, what else will be revealed, and so we may be having to revisit this unseemly topic again. But for now, I think that's it, unless you had anything else you wanted to add.
Well, wait, no, I did want to add. So
yeah, please.
Why did someone say Never mind. It doesn't matter. That's a different topic
Oh,
for a different day.
sure, but what was it?
Because there was a
What was
crazy headline that it
about what was
was
it?
when these allegations came out.
Hmm.
They called him a gay man, and
They called him a gay man?
yeah, someone, one of the like tabloid sites that post on Instagram or something
Okay,
was like
sure.
another
Mhm.
closeted gay man gets accused of blah blah blah. And
Mm,
now, of course, that has been rumors for a while too, right? That he likes the men folk as well.
right.
And so my only issue with that is if he indeed is closeted and his preference is men, I think like gay people have a right to be closeted if they want. Like I don't think that people that oh that you're self-hating or what's wrong with you, you're not brave enough if you don't come out or blah blah blah. Like people need to.
You're saying gay people don't owe the public being out.
Yes,
Is
thank
that
you.
right?
This
Hmm.
is why you're such a great copywriter. Gay people do not owe the public to be out. And our sexual lives and our preferences can actually be private. You know what I mean? Even if you are
Sure.
indeed a celebrity. But this is what an issue I do have with. I think that if he indeed is a closeted gay man with all of these beard type of relationships, and this is not all gay men, obviously. I think that it's problem a lot of times if you actually aren't attracted to women and you don't really like women, then yeah, you're abusive and resentful and hateful. Like, what are you doing?
Sure.
Be with a
Sure.
man. Be with someone who you're actually
Sure.
attracted to.
Yeah.
And leave
That makes
women
sense. Yeah.
alone and definitely don't beat and rape them. How about that?
That's probably for the best. Yes. Yeah.
Since you're not really getting turned on in the way you need
Right.
to, it's not really doing it for you. So you need to, introduce
Isn't it
violence and mayhem. Like,
isn't it
what?
interesting that even when women aren't the primary target, we somehow wind up with a stray? Like, like how do we get it? Like, why are we always being abused? Not that anyone should be, but I just think it's interesting that, yeah, as you point out, whether he is or not, that is certainly a scenario, right, that we've seen where people do not want a secret about their sexuality coming out, and then yeah, are a bit abusive to the partners they're using as a shield. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's a really good point. That
That
maybe,
this
well, all of it, right? That people shouldn't do that, but also society should probably. I think that was a point you were making before we started rolling. That if we could be a bit more inclusive, people wouldn't feel the need to. Is that right? I don't want to put words in your mouth.
I don't know. I don't know what my point is. My point is that this is all very toxic, and often when there's very toxic situations, there's just various elements. And the other thing is, we just really need to kill all celebrity worship. Like, we cannot have people on
Yeah,
pedestals. Just because someone's brilliant, just because someone's successful, just because they're powerful, just because they're rich. And of course, we all know this intellectually. We all know this intellectually. We're adults here. We know that just because someone has power, fame, and riches and is successful in a, in a, I don't want to say a worldly
yeah,
sense, but you know what I
monetary
mean?
or
Yeah.
yeah,
Like that doesn't mean they're a good person.
absolutely,
And they
absolutely,
and
yeah,
should be
and no
admired.
matter what, yes, and that their behavior should be looked up to or even tolerated when it's inappropriate. It really is so sad to hear. Yeah, you'll have to read some of the details of this case because it sounds pretty gnarly. Poor woman.
Okay. Oh, well, that's it for
Yeah.
us, I think.
Yes, enough unpleasantness for us. We're off to, wash our mental palates from this very, very icky topic. So thank you for joining us. We would love to hear what you think about this. Like, do you think that Brother Love is guilty of these unloving acts? Do you think that he's in the closet? Have you heard any wild rumors about him, or things that you believe to be true now? We'd love to hear what you think. Thanks